Hello everyone, welcome back to the Word This Week. I'm Leonard Hale with GC Energy Services, Division of Gulf Copper and Manufacturing. And I'm coming to you from Gulf Copper Dry Dock and Rig Repair in Galveston, Texas. Today's Friday, August 2nd, 2018. Thank you for joining me, and let's get right to our words. This is a cargo ship, and the word of the week last week was lightweight. Lightweight tonnage is the measurement of a ship when it's light. And by light, that means, and I'll read the definition, lightweight tonnage is best described as the weight of the ship when it was built in the shipyard, including all framing, machinery, decking, etc. However, lightweight tonnage does not include the weight of any consumables such as fuel, water, oil, or supplies. Therefore, when the ship is built, basically the steel and outfittings on the ship, aggregated weight is the light weight. So if you launch a new ship, the water line will be very low across the hull. The weight of the ship will be equal to the weight of the water that it displaces. And therefore, in this case, the light weight of this ship is equal to the amount of water displaced across this line. That is the light weight of the ship. Last week I mentioned that lightweight is often confused with some other terms. So lightweight is measuring the mass of the vessel, the weight of the vessel, actual tonnage of the vessel. And there's three other terms that are very commonly used in the shipping industry that also are measuring or indicating various weights or mass or displacements of the vessel. So the first term is the one we just learned. The next term that is similar is dead weight. I will show you what dead weight is in a minute. And the third term is displacement. And as I said, these are all terms of weight measurement, so they're tonnages. Lightweight tonnage, deadweight tonnage, displacement tonnage. Okay, so we learned already lightweight is the weight of the ship when it is new, with no crew, no consumables, no fuel, no water, and no cargo. Now I will discuss displacement. So previously I've explained the lightweight tonnage as being the light weight of the ship after it's built, which is only the weight of the ship without cargo, crew, consumables, ballast, or oil on board. For ease of explanation, the next term I want to explain to you is displacement tonnage. And so the displacement tonnage is the weight that the ship displaces, similar to lightweight, but after you start adding fuel, water, ballast, cargo, etc., and the ship goes deeper in the water, the weight it displaces, or the amount of water it displaces, will be equal to its weight. Therefore, displacement tonnage will be equal to the weight of the ship. If, as an example, you filled each of these cargo tanks with cargo, and including fuel oil and lubricant consumable, etc., and you put your crew on board. That's the captain in his captain hat. The draft of the vessel will get deeper, and the displacement will be greater because there's more mass on board the ship. And therefore, the ship will be lower in the water. The draft of the ship will be deeper. So the water line will be here on the ship. And the total amount of water displaced will be a greater mass of water. That weight that the ship is at that moment with the cargo, any level of cargo, and any level at any particular time, is the displacement tonnage at that time. Ships are only allowed to load to certain predetermined weights for safety reasons, and that would be called the load line. We'll get into that another day. So the total amount of water displaced is equal to the displacement tonnage. Let me read you the definition of displacement tonnage. Displacement tonnage is nothing more than the total weight of the volume of water a ship displaces when it is sitting in the water, regardless of what is creating that weight, the cargo, the fuel, the ballast, consumables, or the crew. The total weight at any given time it displaces is the displacement tonnage. So now let me explain to you the dead weight tonnage. And I will read you the definition of dead weight. Dead weight tonnage is the weight in tons of all the cargo, fuel, dry provisions, supplies, etc., carried on board the ship. In other words, it is the displacement tonnage of the vessel minus the lightweight tonnage. Deadweight tonnage is a good indication for ship owners and clients on how much revenue the ship is capable of generating. The displacement tonnage minus the lightweight tonnage is the deadweight tonnage. And these are all mass weights. And that, my friends, is lightweight, not to be confused with dead weight or displacement weight. There's two other tonnage terms used in the shipping business that people are often confusing with lightweight. Those two terms are gross tonnage and net tonnage, which actually are not weights and therefore very misleading by calling them tonnage. These terms are actually referring to cubic volume. The gross tonnage of a ship is the complete volume of the ship. All volumes inside the hull of the ship and all volumes inside the accommodation. All those volumes added up is the gross tonnage. Net tonnage. Net tonnage is the total cubic measurement of the cargo space. Or cargo carrying capacity of a ship. It's a complicated calculation way beyond the word of this week, but just suffice it to say, it's not a weight measurement, but a cubic measurement of the cargo space. And gross tonnage is not a mass or weight tonnage, it's a cubic measurement of the entire interior of the vessel and accommodation. Again, it's a complicated calculation. As an example, on a cruise ship, it includes the cabins that the passengers are staying in. Typically on a cargo ship, net tonnage is only including the cargo space. The reason for these tonnages goes back very far in history to the days of sailing ships, and when steam-powered and motor vessels came along and how to equalize them. Port fees were often based on the volume of a ship, not the displacement weight of a ship. And therefore these terms developed. They are misleading, they are called tonnages, and as I said last week, it's important for shipyards to know this. And why? When a shipyard is lifting a vessel on a dry dock or displacing it in a graving dock, it's important to know the actual weight of the ship when it comes in to that dry dock or when it is lifted out of the water, similar to an elevator. Why? Because stresses are important, locations are important, and the lifting capacity of the dry dock must be greater than the weight of the vessel. Typically, when a ship goes into dry dock, it has discharged its cargo, it's discharged as much ballast as it possibly can, and it's offloaded as much fuel as possible so that it can be as light as possible for the lifting to make it much easier and quicker to take it out of the water. People are often getting confused about these terms. Therefore, the lightweight plus whatever amounts of ballast or fuel may be left on will be the weight of the ship when it is lifted in the dry dock. This is important for the shipyard to know before the ship comes so they can plan and be prepared and to make sure that their dry dock will take the ship. That was the word of the week. Okay, are you ready for the word for next week? We're going to move out of the maritime industry. We're going to go to the drilling industry. And the word for next week is tribocharging. 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 Do you know what that is? If you do, send me a note. Tell me what you think it is. If you don't, I'll see you back here next week on the Word This Week. Until then, I'm Leonard Hale with GC Energy Services. Be safe in all that you do. Bye, y'all.